Alright, my name is TJ Davidson. For those who have randomly ran across this video on YouTube, this is a video for the parents of my teens in the youth group, and we're getting ready to go on a trek, a hike through Wilderness Expeditions. It's a 6-day trek, and this is a video to help our parents and teens get ready for the trip that we have coming up. So on this video, I encourage you to watch the entire video first, and after you watch the video, then I have a table of contents that you'll see here in just a second. You can skip to different parts of the video and watch just the section that you need to if you need to review it. Alright, so what I think is really important is that this video is not an exhaustive end-all be-all to what you need to know for Wilderness Trek. This is just to hit some of the highlights. And instead of having a parent meeting and talk about these things, I thought I'd make this video so you can watch it on your own time. So what I think is really important is that you have one of these packets. I've emailed them out, and they're at the Welcome Center, in the atrium, and also up in the Teen Center. And you need to read every single page, because this will tell you exactly what you need to know, and it will have all the forms that you need to fill out for Wilderness Trek. I will also say that as we're getting ready, you need to train now. You might think that you're in pretty good shape, you might think that you're ready, but this is a very exhausting experience, and which is part of the challenge and the fun of it. But you need to make sure that you go hiking, that you do some jogging. If you can, go hike some type of mountain or something like Pinnacle to kind of get ready for Wilderness Trek. I wanted to talk real briefly about the spiritual aspect of this Wilderness Expeditions that we're getting ready to go on. We don't just do this as some fun experience, but we do this because it is actually a very spiritual experience. One great thing about Wilderness Trek is that we encourage one another. As we test the limits of our physical bodies, it's a great chance to help each other out. And whereas many times we try to do things by ourselves, we make ourselves vulnerable where other people can lift us up and encourage us. Also on Wilderness Trek, there's many times where we get to spend time by ourselves doing devotionals to draw closer to God. If you can see this, here's a picture of one of our teens by themselves spending some alone time with God. Every year they also give us devotional books that we go through each and every day. This is a chance to reflect on our experiences and to kind of walk us through some thoughts as we're going on this journey together. And these are a great part of what makes Wilderness Expeditions so special. Another thing that we do is not only do we have personal time together and encourage one another, but we also spend time having group devotionals with one another every single day. And this is a great chance to kind of talk about and reflect on what we've done and how God has been working through us through that week. One of the most special times that we have as part of Wilderness Expeditions is that we have a day called Solo Day, where we'll spend 3, maybe even 4 hours by ourselves off in the wilderness. Don't worry, we don't go too far off where we get lost, but where we spend by ourselves just spending time with God. So many times we're so busy listening to music or playing video games that we don't spend extended periods of time with God. But as we're out in the wilderness by ourselves, having such a long period, it really gives us a chance to reflect on our spiritual lives, to read our Bible, to worship Him, and to pray to God. And it is such a special day. For many, it is their favorite part of Wilderness Expeditions. And now I wanted to go over what you should wear for Wilderness Expeditions. And I will say that all this is talked about in the Wilderness Packet, and I have a list that teens have come up with who have gone before about advice on things to wear, and also there is an official list provided through the Wilderness Expeditions people. Ultimately, I will say that this is a personal preference. and that you should go ahead and try things out and try things on before you go and spend some time figuring out exactly what is best for you. Some people need to wear a couple layers of socks. Some people only wear one pair of socks. Some people like wearing wool socks. Some people like wearing synthetic socks. This is all a personal preference. Some people, and what I recommend is, if you can, wear a nice pair of hiking pants. These are great because they're nice and lightweight, which will keep you nice and cool, but also because they're pants, they'll keep your legs from getting scraped up, and they have a zipper here that they can turn into shorts. They also have some nice pockets to carry multiple things, which is very nice. And I recommend these. I bought a pair from Goodwill. I bought a pair from Sam's. You can get these actually pretty cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of money. A lot of people will just wear a pair of regular sports shorts, which is fine too. You can wear whatever you want. Most important, you just need to wear things that are comfortable. I would also recommend, as much as possible, don't wear cotton shirts because you'll sweat a lot, and cotton just kind of holds in the sweat and moisture. But wear dry fit shirts if possible. I got this one from Walmart for $7 or $8. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And that's what I want to emphasize. This doesn't have to be a super expensive trip. You don't have to go out and buy name brand things to have a good trip. You can buy things that are pretty cheap, and they work just as well. And so I would recommend dry fit shirts and long sleeve shirts. You only need maybe 2 of these, 2 long sleeve shirts at the most. And if you wear cotton, you'll still be fine. It's not the end of the world. But if you have a dry fit shirt, I would bring this. Also, one thing that a lot of people say is very good for them is wearing some type of compression shorts. These are good to help from chafing. This also wicks sweat away from the body, and these are really good to bring. And so I'd recommend bringing a pair of these if you have them. And then lastly, you need a pair of hiking boots. I actually bought these for $5 at Goodwill. I wore these last year for Trek. They worked just fine. You do not have to go out and spend $100 on a pair of hiking boots, but you do need a pair. You cannot wear running shoes on Trek. They will not be sufficient. So find you a pair of hiking boots, and when you wear them, you need to break them in. You need to wear them multiple times before you go on Trek, especially if you buy a new pair. You might think to yourselves, well, I have blisters and calluses from other sports, I'll be fine. Boots will rub you in a different way than other types of shoes, and you need to build up those calluses and go ahead and get those blisters out of the way before wilderness expeditions start. Every single year people fail to do this and they suffer for it. So I encourage you to wear these 2 weeks out and build up those blisters. Wear them every single day. Wear them hiking and break those boots in and go ahead and build up those calluses. I would also say that you need another pair of shoes on wilderness trek to wear at night. Personally, I just take a nice pair of Chacos. You can use Tevas or anything else. I would recommend a pair that can stay secure, that have multiple straps that can fit securely on your foot. You need something more than just a flip-flop. A lot of people bring a pair of athletic shoes, which is fine, but you need something that you can wear when you're just hanging around the camp. You do not want to wear your hiking shoes all the time because sometimes they'll need to dry out. Sometimes you just want to give your foot a break. And as you're thinking about what to wear for wilderness trek, I would also say that many people will only change once during wilderness trek. You don't need to bring a huge thing of clothes, and actually the more clothes you bring, you have to wear all of that on you and it gets heavy. So I encourage you might only change once as you're actually out in the wilderness. You might wear the same pair of clothes for 2 or 3 days and then change and wear your next pair of clothes for 2 days, and that should get you through all of trek. And that's what most people actually do. You need to bring very little clothes with you. Alright, now it's time to talk about what we need to pack. Now remember, this is not an exhaustive list, and you need to look in your Wilderness Trek packet to see everything that you need to bring. But there's a couple of things I wanted to highlight that sometimes people forget or that are really important or people have some confusion on. First of all, there shouldn't be any confusion on this, but you need to bring your Bible. You might want to bring a smaller one, but you need to bring the entire Bible, the Old and New Testament. And so that's really important. You're going to be using this a lot during Wilderness Trek. This is a spiritual event. Okay, this is not just physical, so you need to bring your Bible. Also, what is good to know is that right across the street from base camp, there is Walmart. And so the day we get up there, the next day, before we start all these things, we're going to go to Walmart, and so you'll have a chance to buy anything that you might have forgotten. So that's a really good, positive thing. The first thing I wanted to mention is that you really, this is super important, need to bring 2 water bottles. These water bottles need to be at least at about 32 ounces a piece. I wouldn't bring one too much bigger because then it's going to get a little bit big and a little bit too bulky. If you bring ones that are smaller, it's not going to hold enough water. When we're on the trail, it's not like there's a water fountain or a sink you can fill up your water bottle. And so we actually go to the stream and we fill up the water bottle there, and we put a little bit of chlorine in it, just a couple of small drops, and it kills the bacteria. But because you put chlorine in there, you have to wait usually an hour or 30 minutes for the chlorine to have killed everything. And so you need 2, one that you can drink from while the other one's killing the bacteria. And also you might go 5, 6, 7 hours without crossing a stream, and so you need to have plenty of water on you at all times. What I really like to do is I have these really cheap little carabiners, and these are really nice because I just hook them to the outside part of my backpack, and then whenever I need to get it, it's really easy to unhook and then to drink my water. And so I really like these carabiners. You can get them for a couple dollars at Walmart or some outdoor store, but these are really nice to have for water bottles or other things that you might be carrying. The other thing I wanted to talk about is a lot of people carry seats with them. Now, you don't have to have a seat with you, and a lot of people just sit on a log or sit on the ground, but some people after a long day's hike, they want something a little bit nicer to sit on. Some people just get the thin little cushions and sit on them. Some people will get a little tripod seat, or some people even get a camping chair or a stadium seat that you would use for a football game. It doesn't matter if you want to bring some or if you don't. The most important thing is that whatever you happen to bring with you, you will also have to carry it. So if you bring a heavier chair, that's more weight. And so it's kind of a trade-off, and you have to decide for yourself if you want to bring it or not. And so that's just personal preference. I will probably bring a very small chair for me that I'm going to use, but I'm not going to bring anything big. Also, when you're bringing your chair, a lot of people bring those elastic straps, because those chairs or even other things that you might bring, it's nice to strap those to the outside of your pack. And that just makes it really easy and really quick to put on or to take off. And so I really encourage you to bring at least 2 or 3 elastic straps. And I wouldn't bring those really long ones because they'll be too big, but those nice little short ones that can really stretch are really nice to have. Alright, let's talk about backpacks for a second. They will provide a backpack for you. It is an exterior frame backpack. And I'll show you a picture of that right here. Now, as you can see, you see the frame on the outside. That's why it's called exterior frame. Now, if you want to, you can bring your own backpack. And if you have a good one, I would recommend you bringing your own backpack. Some of you might have a backpack like this. And people have brought backpacks like this in the past. I will tell you that this, if you have a backpack about this size, this is actually probably too small. this will not be able to carry everything you need to carry. And so a lot of people think, oh, I'm not going to carry this many clothes. Well, you have to understand that you're going to carry more than just your clothes in your backpack. Not only do you have to carry your clothes, but you also have to carry things like your sleeping bag, and they're going to give you a sleeping bag pad to put under your sleeping bag. You also have to carry your food. And it's not just your food, but you'll be given a bag that might look something like this or this size, and it's going to have Saturday's lunch or Sunday's breakfast. And you'll have to carry this in your bag with everything else that you're carrying. You might have to carry the tent or the tent poles or your little grill that you're going to be cooking the food on, and they're going to divvy that up among everybody so everybody has about an equal amount of weight. But you have to have plenty of room to carry all of these things. The backpack that I use every year is this one, and it is quite a large bag, and this is about the right size, and it has about enough room for everything that I need. But as you can tell, this is quite large. It has tons of pockets to carry different things on, and tons of straps to strap things on the outside, and you need something like this. You go usually from the top of someone's head or even over their head to all the way down to their very lower back. And so you have to have a large backpack. Another bag that you'll need is a day pack. And the day pack is going to be used when we try to make Summit. And so once we're at high camp, and this is talked about, our daily schedule will be talked about later on in the video, and it's also in your packet. But once we're at high camp, the next day we're going to try to make it to Summit. And so we'll wake up early in the morning and we'll try to go all the way to the top of Summit and then make it back down to high camp. And so you won't need to take your large backpack with you, because you won't need to carry your sleeping bag and your tent and all those things. You'll need just a day pack that's going to have your lunch for the day, and also have maybe a jacket or a rain jacket or something like that. And so some people carry shoe bags, but usually those aren't quite big enough. Here's a picture of people's day packs as we're trying to make Summit. As you can tell, that looks like a normal backpack. You don't need a large backpack, but you just need something like this, something that can kind of squish down nice and small, and something that you can stuff inside your other big backpack. But something that just, a compartment where you can put a rain jacket and your food, and maybe a light jacket because it gets cold at the top of Summit, and things like that. And so you'll need a day pack. Some people use, if you have a large shoe bag, that might work, but I would recommend something about this size. I think works very nicely. Let's talk about food. And so here's a couple pictures of different meals that we eat on trek. This kind of gives you an idea of what we eat. A lot of times there's some type of fruit cup, some type of sweets to give you a little bit of extra energy, like a Little Debbie or something like that. A lot of times there's going to be something like some type of meat, sometimes Vienna sausages, sometimes canned tuna. One morning we have Spam, and it is amazing. And so meals aren't huge, but they are enough to sustain you. I do highly recommend that you bring your own snacks. Things like granola bars, or energy bars, or protein bars, or even gummy snacks, or dried fruit. These are all good things to have with you, and that I would recommend to kind of supplement what you're already eating. You don't want to bring too terribly much to where it's going to weigh you down, but you need to find what you think might be a good balance. As we're talking about this also, you really need to bring some type of cup like this. I got this one from Walmart for a couple dollars. I believe this is a 18-ounce cup, maybe 12, not exactly sure. And this is the only, but they do not provide plates for you or anything like that. So whatever you eat, you need to have some type of plate or bowl or cup to eat it in. This is the only thing I have. And I put my drinks in here, my hot chocolate. I put my waffles that I eat. I usually use this cup and eat out of my cup. I put my Spam and eat my Spam out of this cup. I use this cup for just about everything. You can bring a cup and a bowl and a plate. but this is more things you have to carry, more weight, and so I recommend being as minimalist as possible. And then also you'll need some type of silverware. This is a nice spork that I have, and so you have everything that you need right here, but you'll need some type of silverware that you can wash and reuse, that you'll be able to eat all your meals with. You know, cut things, and then for eating soup or ramen noodles, or for things that you'll use a fork for, like your Spam. And so you'll need something like this. You could bring a separate fork and spoon and knife. Again, just more things you have to keep up with, more things you have to clean. So that's kind of your choice, but this is what I use, and this has worked well for me. You also need to bring a rain jacket. Rain jackets are important. There's a very good chance that it's going to rain and you don't want to get wet. And so I would not recommend just bringing a poncho. I don't know if this is going to cut it if it's pouring down on you, but an actual rain jacket is important to carry. You can get them at Walmart for about 25 bucks, a Coleman, or if you already have one, that's great. I would bring something more than just a small disposable poncho, though. I don't think this will do the job necessary. It's also important that you might want to bring a roll of toilet paper. This is something that you need to pack for yourselves. I put mine in a nice Ziploc bag, and it makes it nice. It keeps it nice and dry, and so something like this is good to carry. Maybe between 2 or 3 friends, y'all each carry one roll of toilet paper. However you want to work that out, but toilet paper is important. Also, one thing that I do that I found helpful is I buy those 2-gallon bags, 2-gallon Ziploc bags, and that's what I put my clothes in. And so I might put all of my shirts in one 2-gallon Ziploc bag, and then take all the air out and squeeze it together, and then put all of my shorts and underwear and socks in another one. However you want to do it. It makes it nice to reach in and get out and put it back in. It keeps things dry in case it starts raining, and so that's a really good thing to have. At night we will be covering up our bags with big 55-gallon trash bags that I'll provide to kind of keep the weather off, but it's just nice to be able to organize things and not have things just everywhere inside the bag. So I really recommend you doing that. It's also important to note that as you're trying to pack and figure out what to bring and what to leave behind, that I would bring more than you need, because once we're on the bus, once we get to Trek, you can actually leave things on the bus. Things that you take with you on the bus, you don't have to take with you up the mountain. You can, as you go through and you talk to other people on the bus, you can say, oh, I packed too many shirts, and you can take shirts out and you can leave them on the bus to where you don't have to take them up the mountain with you. What's also nice is that you might have clothes to wear on the way back home that you don't want to wear on Trek, so they'll be nice and clean and fresh and not smelly. And so you can actually leave those on the bus, not take those up the mountain. Once you get back down from the mountain, take all of those clothes and put them in a trash bag and tie it to keep the smell out, and then get your clothes from the bus and wear those home. And so that'll be nice. You don't have to take everything up the mountain with you. You can leave some things on the bus. And so that's important to know as you're packing for wilderness trek. You can pack everything in a backpack and just do that, or you can pack a suitcase, and then once we get off the bus and get ready to go up, put all those things from the suitcase into your big bag, your big backpack. Or if you don't have a backpack, you'll need to bring a suitcase. So those are some things to think about also. Wanted to talk real quick about important things people always forget. Every single year people forget this and they get in trouble, and it's really hard to get these things done. But we have a registration form that you need to have completely filled out. This is in the Wilderness Trek packet. And then also there is a medical form that you need to have completely filled out that includes a physical from a doctor. You cannot bring a physical from some other sport that you're in, but it needs to be, the doctor needs to sign this physical form right here. This is the only one that Wilderness Expeditions will accept, and so that's important. Also, Every year, even though I tell people they need to bring 2 water bottles, many times people only bring 1, or they bring 2 really small ones, or they bring those disposable just plastic water bottles that you throw away. Those will not be sufficient. You need 2 good, hard, sturdy water bottles that are going to last. That's important. People always forget that, and they really suffer on the trip and on the hike because they don't have enough water with them. I've said it before and I'll say it again, you need to break in your boots now. People don't do that and they suffer for it. You need to be wearing them for a week straight. You need to wear them every single day. And you need to break them in and build up those calluses and go take them on a hike or maybe even run in them. Just do something to break them in, to go ahead and get those blisters and build up those calluses in your feet. That is so important. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about our day-to-day schedule. This is on the last page of the Wilderness Trek packet, but I thought I'd go over it and maybe explain some things if I need to. And so we're going to leave on June 20th for different groups. It might be different dates, but it's about a 15-hour drive up there for us. And so we'll drive all day. We'll leave early in the morning and get there really late at night. And so we're going to get to Wilderness Expeditions. We're going to stay in their cabins, and then the next day we don't have to do any registering until late in the afternoon, so you'll be able to sleep in, rest up. That's the next day. We'll go to Walmart and buy anything that we don't have, and so then we'll register, we'll get all of our stuff, we'll learn how to set up our tent, and that night we're going to actually stay on the grounds in our new tents. The next day we're going to get up and we're going to go rappelling, and we're going to rappel off a huge mountain, and then we're going to go to Low Camp. That's also the day that we'll usually have worship, that Sunday, and so we'll have worship on that day. It depends if we do it just with our group or with everybody at Wilderness Expeditions. They kind of change that up, but that's the day usually we'll have worship because that's Sunday. The next day is the day we go from Low Camp and we'll go to High Camp. And so that's usually a pretty tough day right there. It's usually a pretty long hike, and that's going to be a hard one. The elevation is going to get higher, it's going to be harder to breathe, and so that'll be a pretty rough day of hiking. The next day is usually solo day, and that's the day where everybody's going to get to rest, get to take a breather, everybody's going to get used to the altitude, and that's the day we'll spend 3 or 4 hours by ourselves, alone time with God. And then after you make it to summit, then you'll come back down to High Camp, and then the next day you'll go from High Camp and you'll hike all the way back to the beginning of the trailhead and make it back to the bus. And then you'll drive back to camp, and then that night you'll be able to take a shower, you'll be able to change out all your dirty clothes into some nice fresh clothes, and then that night there's a big banquet. And we're going to get to eat a really good home-cooked meal, and it's going to be pretty special. Girls usually that day, they dress up a little bit nicer and things like that. Some guys do, some guys don't. You know how guys are. So that's usually what happens that day, and then we'll rest that night, and then the next morning we'll wake up really early, and we'll start heading back home for that 14, 15, 16-hour drive that we have. So that's usually the schedule. And as you can tell if you look at the schedule, there's only going to be really 4 days where you're not going to have access to any other clothes or anything else. There's about 4 days you'll be actually totally out in the wilderness all by yourself. And so as you're packing and thinking what you need to put in your backpack, you can realize that there's only really 4, maybe 5 days where you don't have access to things that you might leave on the bus or things like that. So that's kind of important to realize also as you're trying to think through what you're going to pack. I'm really excited about this. I hope you're excited too. I hope you're praying about it. I hope that you're really preparing your mind and your heart for what God is going to do through you and with you this weekend, or the weekend of wilderness that you go on this hike. And I really hope that you're ready to encourage one another and build each other up and really bond with each other as a group. I'm really excited, and God bless.